You'd think that most women would want to keep the warmth of the family home intact, treasure their husbands, especially when there are kids involved. But honestly, I still can't wrap my head around why my wife betrayed our love so easily. We had just moved into our own apartment in April, away from both of our parents. There was a ton of work to do with the renovations, and of course, I was the only one working, while my wife stayed home, taking care of our 2-year-old twins. A couple of weeks after moving in, we attended a residence meeting. And just like that, I found myself caught up in a new circle of people I hadn't expected. It was Daisy, my wife, who met the woman from the first floor a little earlier than planned. Her name was Emma, and she lived with her daughter and son. She was walking with her grandson near the sandbox when our children noticed each other. They immediately found a common language and soon began to visit each other often. Emma's grandson came to visit us, and my twins came to them. Sometimes she left Arthur, her grandson, with us while she was on urgent trips, and in response, she told Daisy, "If you need help, feel free to leave the twins with me." Which, to be honest, Daisy started doing quite often. She told me that she just ran into the supermarket for half an hour and then left for half a day, leaving the children with Emma. She even dropped the children off on the ground floor and returned with treats for Emma's grandson. I still can't tell if this old lady knew about my wife's little secret. And speaking of neighbors, there was also the guy who lived just above us. He wasn't just any guy. He stood out. The whole courtyard was full of successful people, with pricey apartments in a nice, newly developed area. But this guy, he was something else. Every evening, he'd jump into a cab, off to party and live it up, as if his life was one big, never-ending celebration. Daisy and I even talked about him once. Why does he always take a taxi, though? And why does he have such an expensive car and bike if he's always taking cabs? She wondered. I had my theories. Maybe he's just careful about drinking and driving. I said, but then Daisy would muse. He's always so well put together. It's like he has this interesting life, you know, partying every night, living for himself. Must be nice. Meanwhile, we couldn't even think about a trip to the beach. The twins were restless, and every single penny was going into fixing up the apartment. The repairs, the endless saving, it was all wearing us thin. The bare walls in the hallway, the outdated kitchen appliances, it was getting to me. Anyway, things continued like this until the day that, to be honest, I'll never forget. I came home from work one evening, and Daisy wasn't there. Neither were the kids. At first, I figured they'd just popped out to run errands like usual. But then I started thinking, our 2-year-olds can make a huge racket, especially if one of them wants the same candy as the other. If they're fighting over the last piece of something, it's World War II. So when I didn't hear the usual noise, I thought, something's off. I called Daisy. "Where are you?" "I'm waiting here." "I'm at the store. Be there in a sec." "Oh, and honey, can you grab a new razor head? I tossed the old one today, but forgot to pick up a new one." Her response was weird. "I'll be home in 10 minutes, she said, and hung up. I was left standing there, waiting. So, I made myself some tea, set the table, and buried my face in my phone. Soon enough, the door opened, and my little noisy family poured in. I grabbed the shopping bag from Daisy's hands and went straight for the razor head, but it wasn't there. "Oh, I forgot," Daisy said, looking a bit distracted. "I don't know." It was hard to tell. She unpacked the groceries, bread, some preserves, the usual stuff, and tossed the empty bag on the windowsill. I just stood there, staring out the window. The weather had been dry for a while, but it had rained a little on my drive home. The bag I'd gotten from Daisy, though, completely dry, and that wasn't right. I stepped into the hallway, and immediately I felt a sense of unease. None of us, neither the kids nor I, had any mud on our shoes. Our clothes were completely dry. But there, hanging by the door, was a folded umbrella. I mean, if all three of them had really tried to squeeze under it, they still would have come back with at least a hint of dampness. Something about the whole situation didn't sit right with me. I was starting to worry, but I still couldn't quite figure out what was going on. The kids were too young to tell me anything. "Did you guys run between the drops?" I asked, half joking. "Where did you run to?" Daisy looked at me blankly, not really understanding what I meant. I grabbed her hand and led her to the window, pointing to the glass. I just needed her to see. Maybe she'd realize something was off. But the moment she looked outside, her face drained of color. She went completely pale, and I could see her struggling to breathe. My heart skipped a beat. Was something wrong with her heart? She didn't say anything for a while. It looked like she was trying to pull herself together, but she couldn't. Her hands were shaking and her lips were moving, but I could barely make out her words. And then, as if slowly recovering, she confessed. She came to visit our neighbor on a motorcycle, and not once or twice, but a couple of times a week. For at least a month, she left the kids with Emma, telling me she was going to the store, but she didn't do it. She was going to see him, to his house. And these trips, when she was away for half an hour, became regular. She even said that she went shopping with the twins in the morning, and then left the package in the stroller at the entrance. What do you even call that? I didn't know how to react, especially with the kids running around us, carrying toys and all sorts of random things. My mind was spinning. I thought maybe it had been a one-off. Then I told myself it wouldn't be a big deal, but now, I had no idea what to think. Daisy was sitting on a stool, nervously running her fingers through her hair, tucking it behind her ears. She wasn't crying, at least not openly, but I could see her lips quivering. She was shaking, and I didn't know what to do next. I couldn't even look at her, so I just got dressed and left. I felt like there was nothing to lose anymore. I headed up to my neighbor's apartment. He answered the door, clearly surprised to see me standing there. "I'm her husband," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I didn't know how to start, how to handle this, but I knew I had to stay calm. No yelling, no drama. He let me in without hesitation and asked, "What's this about? What's going on?" I shot back, "Have you met my wife?" He looked at me like I was crazy. "Yeah, I've met her. What's the problem? You getting a divorce or something?" I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. "No, we're not getting a divorce. Well, at least we weren't planning on it. But now it looks like we will. We have 2 kids. He looked confused. "Wait, I didn't even know she had kids." "You don't know she takes them out with her?" I asked, trying to control my frustration. He shrugged, completely nonchalant. "Look, I leave early, I get home late. Who am I to care about where she's going or who she's with? She came, she left. That's it. How did she end up at your place?" I pressed, my voice a little firmer. He seemed taken aback by the question. "Lured her? What do you mean lured?" "The guys from the agency came over to do some work, stretch ceilings, and all that. They had a truck with their ad on it, and when they finished, I said goodbye to them. Then a pretty girl comes up, asks about the ceiling, whether the curtain rods would need to be moved, if the curtains had to be shortened. That's it. I didn't think anything of it. I just stared at him, trying to process his words. "Look, I'm not some crazy guy," he continued. "I invited her in to see for herself, just to check out the work. She walked around, looked at things. I offered her a glass of wine, and she took it. She was relaxed, chatting, said my life was interesting, that I was doing well, living comfortably, everything was going great. Then she had a couple more glasses, and we talked some more. Then, well, I hugged her. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. There it was, the confession, wrapped up in a casual tone. And suddenly, everything clicked. Everything fell into place. She didn't push me away. I asked her if she was busy. She said she was getting a divorce, and what was supposed to stop me? What's wrong with you? I'm a free man. She's a free woman too. If I'd known she was a wife and a mother, I swear, I never would have touched her. But no, there's no fault in me. So, sorry, man, but that's just how it is. And sometimes she'd come over and just lie next to me for a while. You get that? I didn't know she was busy. And what's all this about you? What do you mean you're not continuing with this? What relationship? I wasn't looking for anything serious, man. I wasn't trying to play nice either. It was just what it was. Where do you get off talking about relationship and all this? I'm not changing a damn thing. I'm fine. I don't need any extra baggage in my life. Trust me. Children, that's not my thing either. I stood there, absorbing his words, my chest tightening with every sentence. I turned and left, slowly making my way back to my apartment. When I stepped inside, Daisy was there, sitting the kids down for dinner. I couldn't look at them, not without feeling this raw ache in my gut. How could she so easily destroy everything we had? How could she do this to us, to me, and to our kids? I watched them, my sons, so innocent, so unaware of the wreckage unfolding around them. How could I ever live with myself, seeing them only part-time from now on? This is insane. I was ready for a life filled with joy, love, something real, and here I was, caught in the ruins of a relationship I thought would last forever. I couldn't hold back anymore. I couldn't pretend that things would just be okay. What's the point? What's she even worth now compared to the happiness she's thrown away? I gathered my things in silence and left. Now I'm here, sitting with all this mess and trying to figure out what to do with the apartment. But honestly, the bigger question is what to do with my life.